Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's event on advancing equity for AA and NHPI students. This event is being recorded. So hello again, and welcome to today's event on advancing equity for AA and NHPI students. My name is Leigh-Han Wei, and I'll be the moderator for our webinar today. I serve in the USDA's Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement. And on behalf of the OPPE, we're pleased to partner with the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and have presenters today from the Department of Education and the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture. For the order of events today, our 1-hour program begins with a welcome from Caitlin Balagula in the USDA's Office of the Secretary, followed by opening remarks by Crystal Kai, the Executive Director of WHIAANHPI. Next, we'll have 3 presenters on the federal resources for minorities serving institutions that we're highlighting today for AA and NHPI students, with Pearson Owens and Robin Wood, colleagues at the Department of Education, and Kellyanne Jones-Jamtard from USDA's NEFA. Following our presentations, we've allocated a few minutes for questions and answers you may have for our presenters today, and these can be submitted at any time through the Q&A feature of Zoom. While we will do our best to provide answers today live, any questions we do not get to will be followed up by email, so we do encourage you to send in your questions. Following the Q&A, we will conclude our event today with closing remarks from Lisa Ramirez, the USDA's Office of the Secretary, Director of the Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce Caitlin Balagula. Caitlin serves as the Special Advisor in the Office of the Secretary at the USDA. Previously, she worked for the U.S. House Committee on Agriculture and in Public Policy in New York. And she's passionate about cultivating a sustainable, equitable, and healthy food system. And we're pleased to have her with us today. Caitlin, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Caitlin. As was mentioned, I serve as Special Advisor in the Office of the Secretary here at USDA, and beside lots of you, I have supported the work of the White House Initiative on Asian American, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, or WHIAANHPI, because as many of you know, we love acronyms in the government. I'm grateful to be here and grateful that you all are here. So today we're going to hear a bit about minority serving institutions, specifically Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander serving institutions, and Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian serving institutions. We're going to hear about the important role they play in improving equity in education for AA and HPI students, and we'll learn about the different federal programs that support these institutions and the larger community. These programs are really important to USDA and the administration's commitment to equity, to enhancing access to opportunities, to eliminating barriers to programs for underserved individuals and communities, and building a workforce, a next generation that is more representative of people here in this country. And just on a personal note, I am a Chinese American woman who works in food policy, and lots of incredible people and programs have helped me get to this spot in my life. So I just want to express deep appreciation for the people at USDA and across the government who are doing this work and uplifting the community so people like me can have the info and resources they need to succeed. And you didn't come to hear me speak, so I'm now very happy to introduce Crystal Kai. Crystal is Executive Director of WHIAANHPI and the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. She advises the Biden administration on the coordination and implementation of federal programs and initiatives to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for the community. Before joining WHIAANHPI, Crystal worked on Capitol Hill for over a decade, including serving as Executive Director of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus for 8 years. She also held positions with the U.S. Senate Committee on Indian Affairs, State of Hawaii, and the National Japanese American Memorial Foundation. Crystal was born and raised in Hawaii and is the first Native Hawaiian to ever lead WHIAANHPI. So take it away, Crystal. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin, for that very kind introduction, and aloha mai kākou. Hello, everyone. and happy Mahino Ulalo Hawaii or Hawaiian Language Month, and also a very happy Lunar New Year to all who celebrate. As the Executive Director of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, or what we call WHIAANHPI, I want to thank you all for joining today's webinar to learn more about the federal resources available to minority-serving institutions, or what we call MSIs. Our White House Initiative is pleased to co-host today's briefing with the U.S. Department of Agriculture and to also have colleagues from the U.S. Department of Education join us to discuss the vital role that MSIs play in leveling the playing field and providing access to higher education for millions of Americans. For the purpose of today's briefing, we will be focusing on two critical MSI programs that were created to advance educational equity for AA and NHPI communities. The first is the Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander Serving Institutions Program, or AANAPISI program, and the second is the Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions Program. As part of our work to advance equity under the Biden-Harris administration, WHIAANHPI is laser focused on increasing access to higher education by supporting our nation's AANAPISIs and Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian serving institutions that have put higher education within reach for so many AA and NHPI students, especially those who come from low-income backgrounds and are often the first in their families to attend college. Take AANAPISIs, for example. Though they make up only a fraction of U.S. colleges and universities, they enroll nearly half of the nation's AA and NHPI undergraduate students. AANAPISIs also confer almost 50% of the associate degrees and nearly 30% of the baccalaureate degrees attained by all AA and NHPIs in the United States. And beyond academics, AANAPISIs and Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian serving institutions also create culturally responsive environments and offer invaluable support to AA and NHPI students through mental health, language access, and career development services. That's why last September, President Biden issued the first ever presidential proclamation to officially recognize AANAPISI Week and to uplift the role these institutions play in empowering our next generation of AA and NHPI leaders. Under the Biden-Harris administration, more than $5 billion in federal funding have already been delivered to AANAPISI campuses through the President's American Rescue Plan. And across the federal government, agencies, including USDA and the Department of Education, are working to improve the capacity and infrastructure of AANAPISIs through grants, cooperative agreements, and direct financial relief to students. In addition to these historic investments, our White House Initiative has also launched a higher education engagement series with AANAPISIs and with Native Hawaiian serving institutions to connect with college and university administrators, faculty, and students on campuses all across the country. And I'm excited to share that we plan to bolster our engagement with students and higher education leaders in the coming year, including through a historic higher education leadership development summit that we are planning at the University of California, Berkeley on April 2nd. So on these fronts and so many more, we look forward to continued opportunities to work together to advance educational equity for our diverse communities. Mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much again for joining us today. I know we have an incredibly packed schedule with a great line of speakers, so I'm going to turn it back over to our MC, Leanne.
Thank you so much, Crystal, and thank you for your leadership of WHIAANHPI. Now I'd like to introduce Pearson Owens, Senior Program Officer, who will be sharing with us about the Department of Education's Asian American, Native American Pacific Islander AANAPISI program. And in addition, he serves as a Program Officer of the Strengthening Institutions program. Pearson, please take it away.
Yes, someone had to stop sharing the screen. Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, yes. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Pearson Owens. I'm with the U.S. Department of Education. I've been with the program since it was first received funding from Congress back in 2008. So the AANAPISI represent Asian American and Native American Pacific Islander Serving Institutions program. And the agenda for my presentation are the purpose of the program, the grant process, location and number of funded AANAPISIs, the funding for AANAPISIs, the use of the funds, and funded projects. So the purpose of AANAPISIs, the overall purpose of these programs is to provide grants and related assistance to AANAPISIs to enable such institutions to improve and expand their capacity to serve Asian American and Native American Pacific Islanders and low-income individuals. It's a two-part process in regards to the grant process. First, an institution must be deemed eligible. From the Department of Education standards for a needy institution, they have to have 50% Pell Grant students, and they have to have low educational expenditures comparable to institutions of their same size. So that's how institutions first become eligible to apply for the grant. Now, if institutions fail to meet these two requirements, they can submit a waiver if they feel justified why the institution should still receive funding because of the situation the institution is in. It could be a high cost living area or other barriers that why they did not meet the two requirements for Pell Grant and low education expenditures, why they should still be eligible. So once the institution is eligible, they must have a enrollment of 10% AAPI students. And the Native American Pacific Islanders for the ANNHSIs program means any descendants of the Aboriginal people of any islands in the Pacific Ocean that is a territory or possession of the United States. It does not include Native Americans in the United States. That's a different program. That's a tribal program. So the Native American Pacific Islanders are specifically about Pacific Islanders in the Pacific Ocean region. An institution also must be state licensed, and it also must be accredited, recognized by the secretary. And once the institution received the award, they had the MSI status as a minority serving institution during the duration of the grant. The total number of funded AANAPISI projects, there's total number of 54 projects spread across the United States and the Pacific region. The next slide shows the map. So all the green areas, as you see, most of the AANAPISIs are located on the West Coast, with California having the most at 19, then Washington, Nevada, Oregon. And then in the Pacific region, you have Palau, American Samoa, and Northern Marianas Island, with 3 institutions out in the Pacific. And you have also in the middle of the country in Minnesota and Illinois, you can find AANAPISI, and the rest of the AANAPISI will be found on the East Coast, in Virginia, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts, and New York. So the funding for the AANAPISI program, so funding the last 3 years for 2020 and 21, for the Part A is 2 funding sources for this program. There's a Part A, which is discretionary funding, and then there's a Part F, which is mandatory funding. So for the Part A was $4.4 million in 2021 and 4.6 for the mandatory, for a total of $9.1 million. In 2021-22, funding did increase to $10.9 million for the Part A, and Part F pretty much flat at 4.7 for a total funding of $15.6 million. 2023 seeing the biggest increase for this program for the Part A with $18.5 million. The funding for the Part F mandatory was flat at 4.7, and for a total funding of $23.3 million for both programs. So the use of the funds, AANAPISIs may use these grants for a variety of activities for strengthening the institution. Such activities include, are not limited to, renovation, faculty development, student services, and technology upgrades. So I'm going to highlight 2 of the AANAPISI projects. So the first I want to highlight is Hunter College in New York City. Hunter College AANAPISI project called HCAP has leveraged the AANAPISI grant to develop a transfer student pipeline through a student-led mentoring program. Since the college is a community commuter college, the mentors have been able to direct students to services the college has to offer. In addition, the project has developed mental health and financial literacy workshops to help students deal with their mental well-being and how to navigate their finances. The project's academic preparation focuses on strengthening students' academic writing and communication skills. A grant-sponsored 3-hour credit course taught by the grant's multilingual learner and mental health specialist titled Theories and Methods for Researching Asian American Communities focuses on teaching students how to examine previous studies of AAPIs and AAPIs communities to understand aspects of research writing and critiquing underlying research biases and assumptions. The next school I want to highlight is San Francisco State University. The AANAPISI project here is titled REACH, which stands for Responsive Education for Accessing Community and Hope. So hope is included, so it's called REACH. It's a comprehensive set of culturally responsive and equity-minded access, awareness, and financial literacy strategies designed to improve college access, persistence, and completion of AAPI and low-income students. Through the grant, AAPI students' four-year graduation rate has improved 7 percentage points, and the fall-to-fall persistence rate has increased from 79% to 84%, which is all attributed to the AANAPISI grant. The college also has established a partnership with Step to College, which recruited high school students to participate in the college summer bridge program. In addition, the college created an equity-minded faculty learning community, focuses on developing financial literacy modules and general education courses. So thank you for your time, and for any other questions, you can reach me at my information here on this slide. Thank you.
Leanne, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you, Pearson, for that. We really appreciate it. So now we'll hear from Robin Wood, Lead Program Officer at the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Post-Secondary Education. And she also serves as a program specialist for grantees in the Strengthening Institutions program. Robin will be speaking on the Department of Education's Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions program. Robin, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm going to pull up my presentation really quickly and we can get started. And can you see that?
Yes, looks great.
Okay, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Robin Wood, and I am the program lead for the Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions program, which is also known as ANNA. And I have been here at the Department of Education in the Office of Post-Secondary Education for almost 14 years this year. And I believe I've been with the ANNA program for about 11 of those years, 10 or 11 of those years. So for quite a while. So today's agenda, we'll go over the program authorization, the program purpose, eligibility, and I know Pearson touched on this a little bit in his presentation, types of grants we offer, a view of allowable activities, funding, institutions served, and a success story also. So this program has two parts. One part is Part A, which is your discretionary funding, and the other part is Part F, which is the mandatory funding. And these are the authorizations for Part A. Part A was authorized by the Higher Education Act of 1965, and then Part F was also incorporated into Section 371 of the Higher Education Act. So again, there's two parts, Part A, Part F, for this program. Oop, I did not mean to go to the link for you guys, but this is the link to one of the, to actually the United States Code. Next, the program purpose. The purpose of the ANNA program is to fund grants to eligible institutions of higher education, which means colleges or universities, to enable them to improve and increase their capacity to serve Alaska Natives and Native Hawaiians. Also, institutions may use these grants to plan, develop, or implement activities that strengthen the institution. Applicants must have an undergraduate student population that's either 20% Alaska Native or 10% Native Hawaiian. So when applying for these for this grant program, an institution has to meet two criteria in order to apply for ANNA funding. First, the institution must be designated as an eligible institution, as Pearson mentioned previously. We have the same requirement for the ANNA program that you are an eligible institution first and foremost. And then you must also meet the specific undergraduate percentages, which is for Alaska-serving institutions, 20% of the undergraduate population must be Alaska Native students. And for Native Hawaiians serving institutions, 10% of the undergraduate students should be of Native Hawaiian descent. We also offer two types of grants. Normally, whenever we have a competition, we normally offer both of these types of grants. One is an individual development grant, and that is a grant that goes to a single institution, is an eligible institution who applies for funding on their own behalf. Or an institution may apply for a cooperative arrangement development grant. And this is when there's a lead institution that partners with one or more other institutions of higher education. Now, the lead institution must be eligible to apply for funding, and they are the entity that actually submits the application for funding. The partners are not required to meet eligibility standards. So even if a partner is found ineligible, that is okay. They can still be a partner in a co-op. So for allowable activities, they are outlined in our Code of Federal Regulations. The awards are aimed at strengthening the institution's ability to serve Alaska Natives and Native Hawaiians. And activities include, but are not limited to, renovation, student services, course development, technology upgrades, faculty or professional development, and also financial literacy. That was the most recent allowable activity that was added to the legislation. So financial literacy is one of the newer allowable activities that we offer. So just take a quick look at the funding over the years. As you can see, each fiscal year, since just taking a look at the past 3 years, has increased each year. In 2021, Part A had just a little over 19 million. Part F was a little over 14 for a total of program funding of over 33 million. For 2022, a slight increase at just over 21 million. The mandatory funding remains the same, or just actually increased by just a small amount for a total of 35.5 million in overall program funding. And then in 2023, Part A discretionary funding went up to over 24 million. Part F did remain the same, and for a total program funding of $38,570,000. I will say the Part F, we've mainly had competitions for Part A. The Part F money that we have is right now is going to fund our non-competing continuation awards, which means they're entities that have already received their award, and they just are being funded for each year of their award out of this pot of money of mandatory funding. And these are typically 5-year awards. So the number of institutions served that hold an ANNA grant, we have 16 institutions that hold a Part A grant, 6 are in Alaska, 10 are in Hawaii. We have 14 institutions that are Part F, and we have 3 in Alaska and 11 in Hawaii. So just wanted to go over a quick success story, which is Chaminade University of Hawaii, which is a private institution. They recently created and implemented the doctorate of nursing practice at their institution. And they're hoping that this doctorate will address the issue of the primary care physician shortage that is in Hawaii, since nurse practitioners can actually provide direct care to patients. And the program will focus on the Native Hawaiian population with a focus on health disparities faced by Native Hawaiians. And you can reach me again, as Pearson said, this is our email, my phone number. We also have a link to the ANNA program if you want to take a moment and jot it down, or you can email me later and I can send that out to you. Thank you all for joining us today, and now I'll send it back to Leon.
Thank you so much, Robin. Now we'll hear from Kellyanne Jones-Jamtard from the USDA's NIFA, where she serves as National Program Leader for the Resident Instruction Grants and the Distance Education Grants for institutions of higher education in insular areas. As a reminder for the audience, please continue to submit any questions you may have for our presenters through the Q&A feature. Kellyanne, please take it away.
Sure. And if I could get access to screen share, please. Thank you. Okay, and I'm just confirming that you can see my screen.
Yes, looks great.
Thank you. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy to be here to talk a little bit about our insular areas programs and our ANNH program here at USDA NIFA. As Leon said, I'm Kellyanne Jones-Jamtard, and I serve as the National Program Leader for both of these programs. So the National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA as we call it, we are the extramural funding agency of USDA, and our main mission is to invest in and advance agricultural research, education, and extension to solve societal challenges. So NIFA does this primarily in two ways and two funding streams. And so the first would be capacity grants to land-grant universities. And so these are non-competitive grants that are given out via formula to universities with land-grant status. And then the second way are through competitive grants programs that support research, education, and extension. And the eligibility for those programs, depending on the program, is much more broad than the land-grant university system. So there are programs that we have that are open to land grants, non-land grants, other types of minority serving institutions, community colleges, and other organizations like schools or nonprofits. And even though we are funding activities around food, agriculture, natural resources, and human sciences, we define those areas very broadly. And this slide is just to give you kind of a snapshot of the different areas and topics that are covered via NIFA programs and likely where we have a funding stream. And so I'll just leave this up here briefly so you can see that. And just because it's not on the slide doesn't mean there isn't a program we can fund it or a topic area that we won't fund. If you have an idea and you think it fits within the wide umbrella of food and agricultural sciences, please reach out to program staff. We'd be happy to hear about your ideas and see if there's a program that it would be a good fit for. So the first set of programs I'll talk about are our competitive programs for the insular areas. So USDA and NIFA does not have a specific AANAPISI program, but we do have these insular areas programs the eligibility is limited to the 8 insular areas, and 6 of those are in the Pacific, including the Federated States of Micronesia, Guam, Palau, Marshall Islands, the Northern Mariana Islands, and American Samoa. And then in the Caribbean, we also have Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, but I'll focus on the Pacific for the purposes of this presentation. And so we have 3 grant programs, which are the distance education grants, the resident instruction grant programs, and the eligibility for those are public or nonprofit 2- or 4-year institutions in the insular areas. And these are teaching and education grants primarily. And then the third program we have is the Agriculture and Food Sciences Facilities and Equipment Grant. And this eligibility is a little more narrow to just institutions that have land grant status and are located in the insular areas. And these grants will fund facilities and equipment projects. So since 2005, NHFA has funded 63 grants for a total of $12.5 million, specifically in the Pacific area. So this is excluding grants received by Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And we do have these competitions open for this year. And so we anticipate about $2.3 million for those 3 programs in fiscal year 2024. And the application deadline for the resident instruction grants and the facilities and equipment grant is February 28th of this year. And for the distance education grants, it's March 20th of this year. And so the distance education grants, briefly, their purpose is to strengthen the capacity of institutions to carry out food and ag programs via distance education. And so these grants can fund things like acquiring equipment, the networking capability, and the infrastructure to support distance education, curriculum development of distance education programs, and professional development for those who will be utilizing those programs via education. And here's just an example on this slide of a program grant we funded at the University of Guam, looking at creating an online textbook in tropical wildlife management. Next, the resident instruction grants. So these grants are going to strengthen the ability of institutions to carry out food and ag sciences via recruiting and retaining undergraduate and graduate students in high-need food and ag science need areas, including providing scholarships. These are also going to be experiential learning opportunities for students, like internships, other problem-based learning, curriculum development, acquiring teaching equipment for your classrooms and improving your libraries, and then professional development for faculty as well. And just a small snapshot of funded topics include sustainable small farms, GIS and geographic information systems, genomics and bioinformatics, nutrition, medicinal plants. There are a wide array of topics that we funded in this space. And here's an example on this slide of a project that was funded last year at the Northern Marianas College to use geographic information systems and remote sensing courses. And lastly, the Agriculture and Food Sciences Facilities and Equipment Program. And this is mainly to acquire, alter, or renovate facilities with the relevant equipment necessary for conducting agricultural research. And so grantees can use this money to repair, remodel facilities, labs, and other capital facilities. And so usually we see applications related to natural disasters, repairing things, and so on and so forth. And so some topics have been improving energy resilience, so funding solar panels and the like, acquiring both big and small pieces of equipment for teaching and lab purposes, research, and then remodeling greenhouses or animal facilities and things like that. And so now I'm going to switch over to our Alaska Native Serving and Native Hawaiian Serving Education Grants Program, or AANH. And the eligibility for this program is public or private, nonprofit, Alaska Native Serving and Native Hawaiian Serving institutions of higher education. So similar to what Robin was saying with the Department of Ed, for Alaska Native Serving, it's undergraduate enrollment of at least 20% Alaska Native students, and Native Hawaiian Serving, it's at least 10% Native Hawaiian students. And I will say for our eligibility purposes, you do not have to be determined to be eligible via the Department of Education to apply to NHFA programs. You can use Department of Ed eligibility to demonstrate your eligibility to NHFA, but if you do not have that, you can submit a letter from your authorized representative certifying that you meet the eligibility criteria that is outlined in our request for applications. And so the type of grants we offer through this program are education, extension projects, applied research, or integrated projects, which are basically a combination of education, extension, and research. Since 2001, NHFA has funded 89 grants for a total of $73 million to ANNH serving institutions. In fiscal year 2024, we have our request for application open with a deadline of March 5th. And we'll have about $6.3 million we anticipate for this year's competition. So briefly, the purpose and priority of this program is to promote and strengthen the ability of ANNH serving institutions to carry out, as I mentioned, education, research, and related community development programs. And these funds can be used to recruit and retain undergraduate and graduate students, including financial support for them, experiential learning opportunities, curriculum development, professional development for faculty, supporting informal education amongst youth and adults, and implementing practical ways for disseminating information to communities. And the example project I have here is our Go Farm Hawaii project at the University of Hawaii. And this has been a long-standing project that has been funded multiple years via NHFA. And this program seeks to train and educate farmers through the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And so in general, NHFA encourages applications from the insular areas and ANNH programs to include aspects of global engagement, leadership skills development, incorporation of the social and behavioral sciences as applicable, and then also a big emphasis on traditional ecological knowledge and native language preservation. That is an acceptable topic of research for researcher education for NHFA grants to these programs. And definitely want to make sure I highlight that. And I also wanted to briefly mention our Next Gen program. So this is a program that the official title was From Learning to Leading, Cultivating the Next Generation of Diverse Food and Agriculture Professionals program. And this was a historic $250 million investment in minority serving institutions. And these awards were made in the summer of 2023 and there were 33 awards made. Unfortunately, we won't be competing this program again, but these awards funded activities in scholarship projects, experiential learning projects, and or outreach and engagement projects. And our hope is to grow our federal workforce through this program and touch about 20,000 students in the process and increase the diversity of our federal workforce. And so Alaska Native Hawaiian serving institutions and institutions in the insular areas were eligible to apply to this program. And 4 of the 33 awards went to these institutions. So you'll see one went to University of Hawaii at Manoa, University of Alaska at Fairbanks, University of Guam, and Northern Marianas College. And I just wanted to make sure I highlighted this program and these projects because we really hope that they'll really invest in those institutions and build their capacity and create opportunities for collaboration and partnerships for students. And here on this screen is my contact information as well as the contact information for Dora Sell, who is the program specialist that I work with. So she's also able to answer questions. And I also wanted to include a image of our education pipeline here at NHFA. So the 2 programs I discussed are just one small piece of all of the education programs that we have. So if you're not quite the right fit for either the insular areas or the ANNH program, or just want to learn more about either our K-12, 2-year, 4-year master's doctoral programs, feel free to reach out and I can provide more information about the other types of education programs that we have in our Division of Community and Education. And also wanted to show our non-discrimination statement from USDA, and I'll just leave that up for a couple of seconds for you all to look at before I turn it over to Leon for, I think, our question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Kellyanne, for that. That was really great. I know a lot of people don't know the grant programs of NHFA as well. So I think that was a wonderful presentation. So I'll ask all of our presenters to come back online or on camera, and we can respond to some of the questions that have been submitted. I think all of our presenters have been doing a great job responding live through the Q&A. So we can, there's still a few left, but I will present one question that was submitted through email, since we also offer that as an option. And this one comes from someone at the University of Illinois, Chicago, and they ask, we are a Department of Ed eligible AANAPISI, but I know that USDA has its own measure for HSI, or the Hispanic Serving Institutions, and I'm unfamiliar with your AANAPISI requirements. Kellyanne, I think you may have addressed this. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to help our audience understand?
So if I heard that correctly, they're asking about a specific AANAPISI program within USDA, correct?
Mm.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, USDA NHFA does not have a specific AANAPISI program. So they would have to, I think they mentioned they're eligible as an HSI. We do have an HSI program within NHFA. But they would have to meet the eligibility criteria for either the ANNH program or the insular areas programs to kind of access those funds in those programs.
Great, thank you. Let me take a look at some of the ones that are still unanswered. One question came in anonymously, so maybe we'll try to answer that live. Are FY24 grants already being funded? This would probably be for all of you, if you can answer to your grant cycles.
So this is Pierce Owens, for the AANAPISI program, these are 5-year grants. So institutions that currently receive funding from 2020, we had competitions 2020, 22, 23. So all them institutions are being funded from 5 years out. So yes.
Hi, this is Robin Wood. So for Anna, and just to touch on what Pearson said, we also have 5-year grants, offer 5-year grants for the program. Each year, the money is for non-competing continuations. That is for those grantees that already have awards. The money comes out each fiscal year to fund the upcoming fiscal year. So FY20, so we've had funding for FY24 already out. New funding that will be, or not new funding, but new competitions that may be announced this year in FY24 have not come out yet. There is a possibility that there will be an ANNA competition this year. Of course, it's all in part dependent on the appropriation we actually receive for the program. That would come out in FY24, but would not be funded until after the completion of the competition and prior to the end of the fiscal year.
And then for USDA NHPA, we have our request for applications for the fiscal 2024 competitions for both ANNH and insular areas out right now. We are still awaiting appropriations. So it's pending appropriations, but those RFAs are out currently.
Great, thank you everyone for that one. I'll take another one from an anonymous one. If you don't get the grant the first time, is it recommended to reapply or search for another grant? I'll leave that open to any of our grant specialists.
So if you don't receive a grant in the first, your first time trying in a competition, you are welcome to try again the next time we have a competition. We just can't tell you ahead of time when that will be. It all depends on appropriations. So if you see another grant opportunity, especially on my team that I work with Title III, there are other grant programs such as the AANAPISI program, Strengthening Institutions program that you might also qualify for, or on the Title V program, Hispanic Serving Institutions. So I would advise, or you might want to take into consideration that if you don't make it the first time for ANNA or any other grant program and something else comes out, then you may want to try for those grant funds instead of waiting to see when the next competition for ANNA comes out.
I would just say I always encourage folks, if you don't get a grant on the first try, to always either reapply with a resubmission the next year if we have the competition available again, or to talk to our program staff and to figure out if there's another program that you can kind of repackage that application and submit for. There's lots of projects within our ANNH and insular areas portfolio that could fit within other competitive programs at NHPA as well.
And same here for the AANAPISI program, as Robin was saying, if you don't receive funding, also review the reviewer comments and see where you went wrong and make adjustments for when you apply in the future.
Thank you for that one. maybe just to briefly keep on the same stream of a topic, if your institution is already has an AANAPISI grant, can you reapply for another AANAPISI grant to continue the work? How would that work, and where can I find more information about reapplying or being re-awarded?
Many institutions have had several ANNHSIs grants, so once your grant ends, you can definitely reapply. Reapply. It's just that you cannot have any other Title III or Title V grants if you have an ANNHSI Part A, which is a Title III Part A. But under the ANNHSI Title III Part F, the Part A doesn't matter, so an institution can have multiple, can have a Title III Part A or a Title V and have the ANNHSI Title III Part F. So institutions have had more than one grant, had more than one grant after the grant has come to an end.
Thank you, Pearson. I'm sure institutions will be reaching out specifically to you to help them navigate those eligibility criteria. Maybe this one as well. Apologies if this was answered previously. Are nonprofit organizations able to apply for these grant opportunities?
Not under the grants Robin and myself oversee. It's only for colleges and universities.
For these specific NIFA programs, a nonprofit would not be eligible to be the lead institution. It's limited to colleges and universities as well, but nonprofits could partner with those lead institutions on grants. And there are lots of other programs within NIFA that have eligibility for nonprofits. So I'd be happy for you all to reach out to me, and I can point you to programs that have eligibility for nonprofits.
Thank you for that. Is there a list that exists that shows what other federal funding programs beyond the Department of Education that offer grants designated for AANAPISIs specifically?
I do not know any, but each agency maybe have their own grant program, because I only know what the Department of Ed has to offer, but I don't know about other agencies.
And I would suggest looking at grants.gov, because you'll find all grant opportunities through the federal government there, or on the Federal Register. You can just Google that and pull that up to see if there are any opportunities specific to AANAPISIs. Like Pearson said, we don't have a specific link where you can go to and find every program that I know of, but grants.gov and the Federal Register will both list all grant opportunities that are open.
Thank you so much. Maybe we'll take one last one. Will the U.S. Department of Education or other federal agencies be offering any future technical assistance conferences or events that could bring together MSIs, including AANAPISIs, to share best practices and learn about future funding opportunities?
For the ANNHSI program, we are in the planning stages for have a ANNHSI project directors conference in October, but that's still in the early planning stages.
ANNA will not have a project directors meeting this fiscal year. We're looking at doing it next fiscal year. It's our hope for our whole team to actually go back to the way we used to do project directors meetings, where we could bring everybody together so all the MSIs can be part of all the different breakout groups, different speakers, and learn from each other. When I do have a competition or there's an announcement for a competition, we will set up and I will present a technical assistance for that. It will also be listed on our website that I shared earlier, and you can go there and look for applicant info, I believe, and that should give you access to all of the current documents.
And for USDA, all of our programs, our competitive grants programs, we do post technical assistance webinars, either recorded or held live. And so for any program you're interested in, you can go to the funding opportunity page, and a link or recording for a technical assistance webinar for that request for application will be there. And then, and I should have put this in one of my slides, but I'll hopefully pass this information out through Lehan after this event. But NIFA will be hosting a 4-day grants management technical assistance program workshop in the beginning of March. And that will cover kind of all aspects of applying to NIFA and our various variety of grant programs. And so I'll pass that information on Leon to send out to everyone if you're interested in learning more about NIFA.
That'll be great, Kellyanne. We do have a short program today, and so while we didn't get to every question, I know that our presenters have also been busy in the chat responding, and then we'll also follow up through email to continue to respond to questions. And so I'd like to just take a moment now to move towards the close of our event and to introduce our very own USDA's Director of the Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement, Dr. Lisa Ramirez. And prior to her current role with the USDA, Dr. Ramirez served in multiple roles with the U.S. Department of Education, including as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Policy and Programs in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, where she oversaw a broad range of management, policy, and program functions. And we're thrilled to have her now at USDA. Dr. Ramirez, we're so pleased to have you here with us. Thank you. And the stage is yours.
Thank you, Lehan. Thanks, everyone. Good afternoon. As Lehan mentioned, my name is Lisa Ramirez, and I currently serve as the Director for the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Office of Partnerships and Public Engagement, or OPPE. And it's truly a pleasure to be with you today. So through OPPE, USDA partners with those who focus on solving the challenges facing underserved communities. We connect these communities to the education, tools, and resources available to them through USDA programs, services, and initiatives. We're developing a solution-oriented relationship that helps to build leaders within the communities that they serve. So I am so pleased to be here with you today for today's OPPE webinar that's been hosted in partnership with the White House Initiative for Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, and with speakers from the U.S. Department of Education and our National Institute of Food and Agriculture. So thank you to all the presenters that you heard today, Pearson, Robin, Kellyanne, and the important resources that they have shared. Programs like the Department of Education's Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander Serving Institutions program and the Alaska Native and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions program are actually something that I'm quite familiar with during my time at the Department of Education, and I cannot underscore how important that is. And we are so glad they were here to present more information on that. And USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, Alaska Native Serving Institutions, and Native Hawaiian Serving Institutions education grants and institutions of higher education in insular areas programs connect us with those communities and allow us to expand our network of partnerships and collaborations across the country. In my time at the Department of Education, I was very, very fortunate to be able to work in the insular areas and in the territories. So understanding the challenges that you have in those communities is critical to our understanding of how we move together, how we are solution focused in solving some of these problems, how we share these resources is critical. And equally important is how we build these partnerships and relationships together so we can count on each other whenever new problems come up, and so we can have thought partners with each other. So thank you to Crystal and for the White House Initiative for their leadership and commitment to uplifting these minority serving institutions and all of the students that they serve. We have a strong history in building these relationships and collaborating with minority serving institutions. So by creating culturally responsive environments that provide mental health, language access, and career development services, these institutions prepare Asian Americans, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander students to be civically engaged leaders and change makers in their own communities. The NIFA programs focus on strengthening the ability of the insular areas institutions' capacity to carry out educational activities in food and agricultural sciences and related disciplines. So by preparing the students for career in agriculture, natural resources, food science, and food safety, these programs contribute to the development and sustainability of the next generation of food and agricultural leaders. Again, I thank you for joining us today and for your commitment to supporting minority serving institutions, to strengthening their educational capacities, and to improving food and agricultural teaching programs. And thank you most of all for investing in our students, who are the fabric of our future and ultimately the future of our food and agricultural systems. Thanks again, Leanne. I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ramirez. And to our audience, thank you for attending our webinar. Today's webinar was designed to be a brief introduction to the programs and resources available for these institutions and the students they serve. And so as a follow-up, attendees of today's webinar will be receiving an email with resources from the programs presented today. And we do encourage all of you to follow up with those materials that will be provided for future grant webinars and events, the resources and information, and even with our presenters that have given so much information today. To our attendees, we hope that you've benefited from today's event. Before you exit Zoom, we would appreciate your feedback in the exit survey that has been launched. And so finally, I'd also like to extend our appreciation to our interpreter today, and also to my WHIAANHPI and OPP colleagues that have worked hard behind the scenes to bring us today's event. Thank you all. Thank you, everyone. This will conclude today's event.
Great job.